Welcome to Father Son Galaxy. I am Kerwin. This is Keith. Our guest is Lamont Magee, an Emmy nominated screenwriter, producer, and co producer of shows such as Green Lantern, Black Lightning, All American Homecoming, and the Emmy nominated Star Wars The Young Jedi Adventures. Lamont is also a member of the Writers Guild of America, who in September agreed to a tentative 3-year deal with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers after a 5-month writer's strike. The contract was ratified in October. Lamont and other writers are looking to reshape the comic book industry. It was announced in November at New York Comic Con that Lamont is now co founder of Ghost Machine, a media company that gives complete ownership to the creators. Lamont is among 8 writers who will own, operate, and profit from their own work. Lamont Magee, welcome to Father Son Galaxy.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much. Congratulations, first of all, with the writers reaching an agreement with the producers.
Yeah, I'm tired of walking,
Yeah, I can
but
imagine.
it was hard fought,
Yeah.
and I believe everybody benefited, so it's good.
Okay.
Yeah. Could you tell us why the writers felt it was necessary to strike?
I feel as though um, when you do a job, you want to be fairly compensated for it, and the business model has changed. So what we were working off of was kind of like the old software, basically, and it just needed an upgrade to basically show what the market was today. Like we were the residual structure and like the money you make off of um, TV shows and like when they go to reruns, it used to be shows would rerun on television, and when that happened, you would get extra money for the shows that you've already written, and that money would kind of help you through the lean times. But because of the streaming situation, the residuals went away and they got smaller and smaller, among other things. Obviously, there was the AI problem of just basically fighting to be, uh, fighting to have a career, actually. Because computers, you cannot stand in the way of advancement. But what we don't want is the advancement to discount people and the human condition. So we wanted to make sure that AI could not replace a writer's creativity and a writer's heart and a writer's story. Sometimes, like zeros and ones can't uh, they can't tell stories like people can. They can't connect like people can, and we were just fighting for that as well.
Hmm. What did the writers receive under the new agreement?
Ooh, that's a good question. Uh, I'm probably not going to go into supreme details, but it's more of, again, the recognition of and the compensation that went along with what we do is now it's kind of it's even where before it was a little out of date. Let's just say, like I said about the AI, we got the protection against AI coming in and taking over the taking over our just jobs, our career. We have a career because we fought to keep AI from writing the stories that I don't believe it can write actually. But also if you deal with if you talk about AI and um, how it would eliminate jobs as well. It's not just our jobs it would eliminate. It would be the people who worked on set, who built the sets, who did the hair. It's like it was everyone wrapped up in this one fight. And I think that to me that was the biggest thing. We fought so that everyone could maintain their careers, support their families. And I'm glad we did it. It wasn't easy. Walking around for 5 months every day was not easy, but it was worth it. And like I said, hopefully we can just move on from here and create amazing things that people can watch and love and uh, quote, like, because TV, movies, it's such a huge part of who we are. It's how we connect to people. And I'm just glad that we can keep doing that.
I want to talk a little bit more about AI. Producers were seriously considering replacing you with AI. From what you've heard or what you've seen, exactly how were they planning to do that? In which way were they going to bring in AI to write the scripts? Because
Well,
ChatGPT, for example, you need someone to, still enter in information regarding a pitch, for example. So, exactly how was that going to work with the producers?
I I believe, again, I am not an expert on this, but I think what you just said is how they're going to do it. It's just enter a prompt, a script is generated, and now they've cut out so many
Hmm.
steps. But there are so many writers who sued for the copyright infringement of, because you have to train AI.
Yeah.
AI just can't generate a story out of thin air. It has to learn, and it has to digest other people's material in order to learn how to write a script. So all the scripts that were fed into the TV shows that were fed into it, they were it basically amounted to copyright infringement as well, because it's not thank God it's not a thinking organism, because I've seen Terminator 2, that does not work out well. Uh, so yeah, I think it was just they were just going to, because it's scripts take time, words take time, like it. But if you can eliminate the time and just get right into it, that's they were thinking more of the bottom line of it all. And writing a script is as much art as anything. It's the experiences that you've had, it's the pain, it's the joy, it's the friendship, it's the family. You pour all that into what you write to connect to people. And I just don't believe personally that that's something AI is capable of. So I'm glad it worked out this way.
Yeah, ChatGPT isn't like a learning model. It's not like it's given information and then it draws its own conclusions. It gets a set of data which is already biased in its own way and draws conclusions from those kinds of things. And there's certain biases that can actually sway the AI without it even realizing how far off course it's been. Like there was this one
Yep.
study where they were taking images of patients with and without skin cancer so that the AI could generate them and give people an earlier warning to if they had skin cancer. But it was associating rulers with skin cancer because in most of the photos where there was a patient who tested positive, there was a ruler in the shot. So it's drawing
Right.
correlations where there are none.
Yeah, and yeah, it can only, especially the AI in writing, it can only write what it's given. So if you give it a certain kind of material, it can only write or extrapolate off of that. There is no, like you said, there is no learning. Uh,
I want to talk about, obviously I'm not a part of the WGA. When you were on strike, what were things that you could and could not do when you were on strike? For example, I understand that you couldn't take on or continue any work related projects, writing projects. You also couldn't
right,
promote what you were writing or promote any
right.
of your previous work. But let's say if you woke up one day, you had an idea for a story and you wanted to just write it down, or type it up and just store it and save it on your computer. Can you do that while you're on strike? Are you allowed to do that?
Uh, to my knowledge and my recollection, you you just couldn't there was no work for
Okay.
hire, so you could not write for any of the struck companies. Um, But if you wanted to write your own story that you weren't giving to anyone, people they can't stop you from writing your own thing. It's yours. Like if you're writing a short story, because writers need to write, you write your short story. Just save it on your computer.
Okay.
But you just could not work for companies that we were striking against. Like when they said pencils down, it was over.
Right.
Like you get no more work from us until this deal is done.
Right. Okay. Right. So you can't accept paid work. Now, if
No.
you and another writer wanted to collaborate, let's say you got a phone call from a writer and say, "Hey, I got an idea that the two of us can work on." That would be allowed during the strike. You have your collaborator working on one side of the story, and you're doing a different part of the story. You can still collaborate while you're on strike.
Again, to my
Yeah.
knowledge, I didn't, but to my knowledge, I'm pretty sure that was
Got
okay
it. Okay.
because it was just two writers working together. As long as no one sent it out, it didn't go to anyone but the writers.
Yeah.
It should have been fine. Again, when it was pencils down, I was
You
done.
just didn't write at all. Okay.
I didn't write anything. I kept a log in my memory of all the stuff I wanted to get to. Also, it was really hard to write considering every day we were fighting for the right to exist, basically. So to be creative in that vacuum is really hard. So I just focused on what can I do to help with this strike. Like I went out as much as I could. I mean, I have a bad knee, so I was struggling out there, but I was there. And then even when the writers settled, I would go out and walk with the actors because I had actor friends who came out and walked with us when they weren't on strike. So I felt like it was my duty as a friend and this is a member of a guild to, if I wasn't on a job, I'm going to go walk with them until they got a fair deal as well. So it was 6 months total of our lives, but I feel like it's like you learned a lot about yourself, about the business, about where you feel like the business is going, and the stuff that you have to do yourself in order to be successful going forward. Because the model's changing. I mean, it's very obvious. Like this whole strike is because the model changed. And we had to adapt to the model, and that's what the strike was. And we'll see what 2024 holds, but I am optimistic, and there's a lot of good people in this town who want to make good projects. So hopefully we can all join forces and make great stuff.
So now the WGA and the Hollywood producers came to a 3-year deal. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's always 3 years.
Okay. And then what can both sides do now to make sure that a strike doesn't happen 3 years from now?
Personally, I just believe you have to it's like this union with the AMTP and then the Writers Guild and SAG and all the other unions. To me, it's like a marriage.
Yeah.
Like you can't just work every 3 years. You have to consistently be in communication and working together. And if there's a grievance, let's talk about it. That's just me being optimistic. Like to me, it's like it'd be easier to avoid, but sometimes things are just unavoidable. Like this strike was unavoidable because the model changed so much and we had to establish a new norm. I don't know what's going to look like in 3 years. That's also what's the new technology that's going to pop up. You can never truly predict the future. But my hope is, we can kind of stay aware of what's happening in Hollywood, and hopefully we don't have to go out again in 3 years. But again, you never know. I'm just gonna keep my fingers crossed and say, hopefully we're good for years to come. But if the union decides that we have to go out and strike, I'll grab my picket sign and I'll be walking in circles again.
For writers looking to break into film and television, why is it essential to join the Writers Guild?
It's picture yourself on an island. Um, it's either you fending for yourself or the collective looking out for one another. That's pretty much what it is. If you're in the guild, you have a set of norms and a set of limits that producers have to pay you. You get health care, you get all these things provided by the guilds. And if you're doing it on your own, isolated, they can negotiate with you however they see fit. They say, well, if you're not up to this level yet, we're going to pay you beneath the floor of what people in the guild would get, and that would be illegal. They can't do it. So basically, joining the guild is for your own protection, so people don't take advantage of you.
Got it. So let's talk about the writers' room. I know you've been a part of many writers' room. Talk about the collaborative approach. How does it work, and why is it beneficial, especially for episodic television, to have multiple writers working together and coming up with story ideas?
Uh, from my perspective, I know there are some writers who write the entire
Yeah,
series themselves, and it's like one long movie, and I get that. Congratulations to you. That's amazing. Personally, I like to write in a group because it's different
yeah,
voices. It's all the episodes don't feel the same, and people's experiences are different. So you could say something that sparks an idea in another person that adds to the episode that you're writing. It's because of the experience they lived. Like the more voices and the more perspective you get, it makes it feel like, to me, again, it makes it feel like an actual story and that could live in reality, even if some people do have superpowers. We'll get to that later. It's more of the character aspects. Like no one person is a monolith. There are different types of people in different types of communities, and it just keeps the stories fresh. And I played sports, so I love writers' room because it's like a big team. It's like some people are good at this, or other people are good at that, and then you put them all together, and the stories that come out, they just feel complete.
got it. Yeah, I agree with you. I know there are writers out there who decide to write every single episode for an entire season, which I understand. But you're right. I think you're missing different voices though, and diversity in your storytelling. And you're right. At some point, the stories are going to start to feel stale. Like you just watched the same episode last week, or fillers that people are talking about, where one plot line. You go from one episode to the next episode, but it's not really moving the story forward. Um,
Right.
is there anything that, and we can't, as a writer, I guess the guild can't stop a writer if they choose to write every single episode for a season. But is there something that the Writers Guild can maybe put in the contract where, depending on what type of show it is, that you must have a certain number of writers working on the project?
That's one of the things we actually got in the
Yeah,
contract.
got it. Okay.
So for a certain amount of episodes, you must have a certain amount of
Yeah.
writers, and then depending if the order goes larger, you must have more writers to compensate for that as well, up into a certain point. So that's already in the deal. That's one of the things that we actually won, I guess you would say. But again, there are some people who will still write. Just because they're in the room doesn't mean they get an episode. it means they help break the stories, but they don't technically. You're not necessarily getting an episode. That person could still write all of them,
I see.
but at least there are more voices and more people get a chance. This what another thing what the strike was about was just making sure the career was still here to give people who are breaking in a chance to get to where I am. Like it's not an easy road. So if you want to do this, it would be it's nice that this will still be here for you to attempt. Like to be an assistant, to work your way up, to get in the room, to become a staff writer, and then just climb the ladder. It's hard and it's rewarding and it's a lot of sleepless nights, but I wouldn't do anything else. It's the most fun I've ever had doing anything besides maybe playing basketball, which was I think it's pretty much tied. Uh, so it's just different releases in my life. Basketball was one, writing is another, and I'm just glad other people get a chance to take a swing.
You call yourself a DC guy. When does your interest in DC appear, and who are your favorite DC characters?
Okay, so when I was little, I grew up in South Central LA during the '80s, so it was like gang wars. It was Bloods and the Crips. Like I would come home from school, I was indoors. Like mom's like, "Are you not going anywhere?" So and we didn't have a lot of money, so I would just watch TV, and I watched everything that came on TV. And I remember watching the old George Reeves Superman, um, in black and white, and I was like, "Wow, this is cool." And then like the Super Friends were on Saturday mornings, and then 1990 The Flash came on CBS, and I just started. It was crazy meeting John Wesley Shipp in real life after watching that, like watching that season on CBS, and then being on set in Vancouver for The Crisis and hanging out with Grant Gustin and John Wesley Shipp, and then in Crest, it was. I call it superhero summer camp because it will never be anything better than that in my life. I don't care what I do. It is my most favorite memory ever because again, I'm a DC guy. So they always say you get if some people are Marvel people, some people are DC people. I'm a DC guy, and you get one Marvel person. So I'm a DC guy and a Spider-Man guy. Like my friend Jeff is a he is a DC guy and a Hulk guy. Like that's his favorite. But my favorite DC character, ooh, mm. Okay. Side note: can we milestone static? I mean,
Yeah.
it's technically it's static all the way DC, but he's not technically DC. So I will say static and uh, uh, it's Batman, but it's so much trauma in that answer because Batman is such a PTSD character. Like his whole existence is I'm gonna make sure what happened to me never happens to anyone
Yeah.
else. So I'm gonna sacrifice my life and live in my trauma to make sure everyone else, I'm gonna sacrifice myself to make sure everyone else is safe. So people don't realize Batman is the most empathetic character in the DC
Well,
universe. He just breaks everyone's legs.
well, there's Batman for me.
Yeah.
On to other DC characters. My favorite is the Flash.
Big fan of the Flash. Yeah.
Can I meet Grant
Uh,
Gustin someday, guys?
Grant is, you should have told me. I could have called him.
Ooh.
Uh,
Okay.
I'm serious. Like, Grant's a really good friend of mine.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah, he's a really good friend of mine. So this is what happened. So I was working on Black Lightning and I season 3, we did the Crisis crossover. So I got to write the episodes myself and uh, Charles Holland, who's like we're the two comic book guys for our show for the majority. Then there's a couple other writers that came later who were super comic book people, but we were there the longest, so we got to write the episode. And I got to go to Vancouver for the filming, which was the best time I've ever had. Period. So the first day we were shooting, we were on the Wave Rider, and it was both Supermen. So it was Tyler. It was oh, I'm blanking on his name.
Brandon.
Brandon
Yes.
Routh, yeah.
It was Tyler and Brandon. Grant was there. Cress was there. LaMonica played the monitor. He was there. David Ramsey was there. It was just
Wow.
it was just a sea. But I was standing on the Wave Rider with Candace, who plays Iris, and David Ramsey, and a few of the other writers who were people of color, and we were looking around, saying, our 12-year-old selves would have never guessed that this show would have ever existed.
You know, I
Like,
have a serious question. Did you meet Tom Cavanaugh
yeah, I talk to him all the time.
and Carlos Valdez? Did you meet him too? And Danielle
I met him
Panabaker? Did you
too.
meet all of them?
Danielle Panabaker is actually very nice.
I met her.
I talked to Danielle a lot, and because I met her earlier before I went up. When I was writing on Black Lightning during lunch, I would kind of walk around the campus, so I would pop to other shows just to say hi and talk to people. And I met Danielle when she was shadowing a director before she directed her first episode of The Flash. So I met her prior to going up to Vancouver. So when I started in Vancouver, it was like, oh, you're here. And we just talked. I talked to Tyler a lot. He's a great guy. And Grant Kavanaugh's funny. Talked to Tom a lot. But I met him at Comic-Con the year before I went up. So I kind of knew these people before I went up. But Grant I met because I wrote the Black Lightning scene, half of the scene where they're in the library and they meet on the Wave Rider, and they it's like when Barry and Jefferson meet for the first time after John Wesley Shipp sacrifices himself to save them, and they're really introducing themselves. So I wrote that scene, and Cress and Grant and the director, they were all tearing up because it just felt so real. And then after that, like Grant and I would just talk here and there, and we became really good friends going forward. And Cress is my guy. Cress is my guy. So if you have people you want to meet, just let me know. I will try to make something happen, a conversation, an email, a voice message, something. They're all really sweet people.
I can't tell you how often this entire year Keith has talked about the Flash.
I tried to draw Flash characters.
Yes.
I
He
kind of failed,
loves,
but I did my best.
no, but he loves
I
the
tried.
Flash. I mean, I did not watch the series, but we did the subject about the timeline.
Yeah, the parallels between the Flash movie and season 3 of the Flash.
Right, we talked about that. Right, and I haven't finished season 3 yet of the Flash, but I enjoy it very much. I was just.
Did you watch season 1 though?
I did not watch season 1.
Oh, season 1 was excellent. It was a masterclass in storytelling. You need to watch it.
You have to watch season 1. It is the best season of superhero, especially the Arrow is really good, but it was really good in that ground. It's that Nolan Batman. Excuse me. It's that in that Nolan Batman way
Got it.
because it's grounded superhero stuff, and it was great. I love the characters. It was amazing. But The Flash was the first actual superhero show they did,
Hmm.
where he's speeding around the city. But the best thing about it was just the character work they did, like Iris and Barry, and then Linda Park, and it was good. Like I was a fan. There's a picture of me at Comic-Con before I started writing on Black Lightning, standing under the Arrow Flash billboards, just pointing up like a kid, like this is the coolest thing ever. And the next thing I know, I'm hanging out with these people.
Awesome.
Um,
I have a question. So you know how in Crisis, all the other wells get absolutely obliterated by the antimatter waves, but then the brain
yeah,
waves are channeled into Nash, and then he has visions of them. Do you know how that happened? Like, did the Wellses all get together and devise a plan because they knew the antimatter wave was going to come, and then they all got together and made a device to channel their brainwaves to whoever could survive the longest?
you know what? I'm gonna say that's probably what happened because I don't know. The funny thing is, I could ask Eric Wallace because he ran the Flash. Be like, Eric,
I would love if that was like the canonical answer to how their brainwaves were channeled into Nash's head. That would be amazing.
because Nash is the smartest person in the room. Like, well, Harrison, Wells, but Nash, you know. So I don't know. It's a very smart thought.
Yeah.
Sometimes we like do things by the seat of our pants, and they're like, oh, that worked out. But I would like to think that that is the case. I don't know for sure. Not my show, but Black Lightning does appear in an episode of The Flash in the Crisis.
Yes.
That's what he. Oh, that reminds me.
Oh boy.
It is the binder from the Crisis.
Wow. Flash vanishes.
Oh, the
It's
newspaper article that they used for the
yeah,
first 6 seasons. Flash vanishes in
yeah.
Crisis. It was supposed to be in
This is
2024.
Wow.
this is the script that yeah from the Crisis. I have all kinds of little cool things laying around.
You know what? Can I just have everything in that room?
I'm gonna probably say no, but I'm glad you asked because they say closed mouths don't
Yeah,
get
it
fed,
doesn't
but
hurt
you're
to
gonna be
ask,
starving
right?
tonight. I'm sorry. You're gonna be a little hungry tonight. But what else is here? I don't know. It's just I have the script from the episode after is it my yeah, it's still my episode. Still the same episode. Where they because we shot all over the place because we were on everybody's shows. So it was the Legends of Tomorrow side of it where they're basically burying they're not burying Oliver, but it's the when they're all standing around and it's the first Justice League moment where they sit down at the table and they have like the emblems on the back of the seats in this big warehouse. Um, I have that script signed by all the cast members. So it's the original Batwoman. So I have Ruby signed it. So
Ooh.
Ruby Rose signed it.
Wow.
And then Steven wasn't even supposed to be there that day, so he popped up. So I got Steven. So I got Katie Lotz, Grant. I got everyone. Supergirl, Martian Manhunter. It's my favorite thing from that shoot because it'll never happen again because Ruby only did one season.
Yeah. Yeah. What a dream come true. Wow.
Hmm.
Let's move on then into talking about Black Lightning. So the character was created by Tony Isabella and artist Trevor Von Eden. Issue number 1 was released in 1977. I didn't even know that Black Lightning went that far back. But so Black Lightning, if anyone has not seen the series, is a metahuman who uses the power of electricity to fight crime in his community. And he was the first Black DC superhero to get his own comic book series. How did you contribute to developing this character for live action?
Funny story. So I was the resident comic book guy in the room, uh, which which was great and bad all at the same time because I would throw out ideas and they would go, "Yeah, no, we're not doing that." It's because they wanted to keep it as grounded as possible because of the story we're telling. And I understood why they did it, but I'm always going to swing for the fences because, hey, man, this is what I do. I love this stuff, which is why they hired me because they know I love it. But yeah, I was helping to like just it's like everyone else, just lay the storylines and create the characters but the thing I was mostly there for was to remind people like, hey, this is great. I love all this. Can he like just shoot a couple bolts that way? Just to, you know, but uh yeah, it was that Black Lightning changed my life. That show changed my life. Because that's the first time I got to do the thing that I loved. And to be able to work on a show that hasn't existed before, like the only black
Yeah.
superhero show on network television ever. The only one that could be in the category is Mantis. That was in the I don't know if it was early 90s, mid 90s. Carl Lumbly had an exosuit that he used to clean up crime in the ghetto, in the neighborhood. But Black Lightning, it was like the era of let's do cool black superheroes because Black Panther, Luke Cage, and Black Lightning came out all around the same
Yeah,
time.
that's true.
And I was proud because growing up, you see all these characters that I loved. Like you love the Flash, I love the Flash, Batman, Superman. There was very little. There's very few characters that got a lot of shine that look like us.
Yeah.
So to be able to write on a show and just show that we aren't a monolith. There are different levels to Black community. We aren't all one thing, and it was great to even have like Tobias Crondon be the opposite side of Black culture. Like he hated Black people, like with a passion. Uh,
Yes, he did.
some of the best lines I ever wrote were for Tobias Whale. My favorite line I wrote in the series was for Tobias, and it was, uh, "Sit your monkey down before I tell this entire restaurant that the Pierce family are the chocolate cover Incredibles."
Oh, wow.
My favorite line I wrote
He said
for
what?
Tobias.
Oh, that's wonderful.
He
Chocolate
basically
covered
said he told
Incredibles.
Jefferson to sit down,
Yes.
or he was going to tell the entire restaurant
Yes.
that the Pierce family were the chocolate covered
Right. He was
Incredibles.
going to reveal their identity.
The
That is awesome.
chocolate covered Incredibles.
I love that. That's
I gotta admit, I giggled when I came up with that one. I was like, "That's funny."
yes.
Um,
So, now, you mentioned Static Shock. Now, what is the possibility of bringing that character to live action?
oh man, I hope they do it. Like, and I will always throw my name out. I'm like, "Hey, if you ever need somebody to help with Static, I'm here." Just because that whole universe with Icon and Rocket and Static and Hardware, it's you can do so many things. But to me, Static is the best of the Milestone universe in my opinion, just because it's basically Spider. It's I love Spider-Man. It's Spider-Man. It's the kid who lost somebody he loves and he's trying to figure out how to cope with it. Maybe he gets caught up on the wrong side of the tracks, like not because he wants to, because he's trying to survive. And then he gets caught in this big explosion and he uses his gifts to save the people that are being menaced by the people that were bullying him. It's great. Uh, but that movie slash show keeps going back and forth, and it's coming out, it's not coming out. It's a big tease, but that is the one in that whole universe because it's people can identify with a 16-year-old kid, like dealing with the loss of his mom, like trying to fit in, the smart kid getting bullied by like other people, and he and he's just trying to figure out who he is and gets these abilities that allow him to be comfortably who he is behind a mask. But it's that thing, it's like when you know you can do something, you have a confidence that you can walk around with that helps you in life. It's like if you know you're great at playing the piano, you have a different, you walk different. Like if you know you're good at something, you feel good enough to like navigate this world in a different way. And that's what Static and those characters kind of imbue in other people. Like you have something special inside you. You just got to figure out what that is and then use that to walk through this world with confidence.
I like that. Yeah. I'm my guess is that people are looking forward to seeing Miles Morales come to the big screen or live action first. And then
Yep.
maybe that would provide an opportunity for Static to actually appear as well. So, yeah, unfortunately, you know, people have to see it happening with another character first before seeing it with the character that they love. So we know Miles Morales is it's inevitable we're going to see Miles at some point. So
Yeah.
I think that's what
The
people are
next
looking
Spider-Man.
for. That's what they want to do right now. Do whatever they can to get Miles, and then anyone else maybe shortly after that. But Miles has to work first.
Miles has worked.
Yeah.
That's the thing. He's worked twice. In like in animation, like it's like what do you have to do to get that character in live
Yeah.
action? And the whole Miles as Peter Parker, and like there's that whole thing on Twitter like Miles Morales isn't Spider-Man, he's Miles Morales.
Hmm.
Have you seen that?
I have not. No, I didn't see
I
that.
Yeah,
have.
Oh, you have? Okay.
yeah.
You know there are
And what I always
multiple
say is,
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
You
yeah,
can have two
what I always say
Spider-Mans.
is,
They
Yeah,
exist in
that's
the same
right.
universe.
Of
They're just
course.
not the same person.
Yeah.
yeah, but what I always say is no one knows Miles Morales' identity. So when he comes and saves them, they don't say, "Thanks for saving me, Miles."
Right.
They say, "Thank you, Spider-Man."
Exactly.
That's the end of the argument. Like it's just because you know his identity doesn't mean that the world he lives in does.
Exactly. I
So
mean, that's like being saved by Spider, but like Ghost Spider or Spider Woman or whatever Gwen Stacy goes by, and then saying thanks
yeah,
Spider Gwen. Like, there's a reason she doesn't
yeah.
go by Spider Gwen, and that's because it's her real name, and she could easily be traced back to the police captain.
So yeah,
Right.
that's always my answer to that. Like Miles isn't Spider-Man. I'm like, if you were falling off a building and Miles Morales in a Spider-Man outfit swung over and saved you, you don't know it's Miles. You say thank you, Spider-Man, and that's the end of the argument.
Excellent point.
That is so funny.
But I hope Static comes along soon because, I mean, Blue Beetle. I really like Blue Beetle. I like the Marvels.
Me too.
Like I thought it was fun. The Marvels was fun. It's like I don't know what people expected it to be, but I like that Nick Cage. I'm not Nick Cage. Nick Fury. Nick Cage. I like that Nick Fury. I like the when he plays it like that.
Yeah.
I love the relationship between the three female leads. Like the villain wasn't that strong, but she had a reason to be upset.
Good point.
But it was more about the interaction between the three leads and them just, I really liked it. It was fun. Like,
You know what's funny? The Marvels is out here doing a whole musical number while Loki is literally using his bare hands to keep the fabric of the universe together.
True.
but the Marvels is supposed to be fun though.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Like
I like that
that's
movie.
yeah, but again, people should watch movies for what they are instead of what they expect them to be.
Exactly.
Like, don't get mad because something isn't the way you wanted it. Well, if you wanted it that way, then go write it.
Hmm.
Like, if it comes out, like if you're a Loki person, just watch Loki. And if you don't like the Marvels because you think it's silly, then don't go see it. But you don't have to bash it because you don't like just the setup for it. It's not your movie. It's not for you. So that's my thought on that. But I'm just here for art and to do cool stuff and to have like diversity of thought. Like you can have Zack Snyder and Rebel Moon, but you can also have the Marvels. It's fine. Like there's an audience for all.
Yeah.
Tell us about Ghost Machine. I was very excited to hear about this project. How long has it been in development, and why did you want to be a part of this project?
I Ghost Machine kind of grew out of what we were talking about with the strike. It's kind of creators owning the stuff that they create. And I was lucky enough to be friends and to have worked with Jeff Johns a couple times prior on things. And we just clicked as far as telling stories. Like we can kick out a story like fast. Like we just kind of are on the same wavelength when it comes to that. So when he decided to kind of put this, it's like I call it it's like the Super Friends, but I'm like one of the Wonder Twins. Like I'm in there, but I'm not really. I'm like the form of water. Like I'm just hanging out. Because these guys are like the biggest names in comic books. Like I've written one comic book uh for DC Celebration, which was a Black Lightning. Um, but he's like, I love the way you tell stories. We would just kick around ideas about stuff all the time. So the thing I'm doing for them is an idea for us. I keep saying them. It's my company. You got to get used to that. It's weird. It's a story that I wanted to do for a while, and I'm being allowed to kind of just run through it and do it and develop it, which is great. And the thing about this company is it gives you ownership over your own thing. Like we create the comic book, but after the comic book, like I can write the pilot or for the TV show, or I can write the movie, and we're all just always going to be a part of it. And it is the first of its kind, and to be able to tell stories from scratch. Like obviously I love DC, but if you're doing a Batman and Robin movie, right? It's which Batman? No, it's Batman, but which Robin? Is it Tim Drake? Is it Damian? Is it Dick? Like everyone has their favorite, and there's going to be a fight based off of it should have been this, it should have been that, it should have been this. This is all original stuff. You're on ground zero of something that has never been done before. It's Image 2.0, and I'm just happy to be along for the ride with these creators. Like we announced it in New York at Comic-Con, and to be around these juggernauts of comics is humbling because like I've been reading them, I've been looking at their art for years, and now I'm in a room with them as their quote unquote equal, but I'm just a fan, and I cannot wait. Ghost Machine #1 comes out January 24th next year. uh I don't think the world is ready for what's coming. The stuff is so, as a fan, like literally, like a non-biased answer. The book is amazing. Like the art is so amazing, and the different stories are like they're drawn differently, and the color, like the tones and the for the different worlds are so different because there's like the family world, the horror world, there's the action sci-fi universe, and then there's the unnamed, which are all these heroes that have existed throughout time that you've never known because they've worked in the shadows. So you can literally do that from the 1700s all the way up to today and just tell all these different stories. But the horror universe, Hyde Street just got announced, and it's going to be killer. Literally, it's gonna be so amazing. It's all amazing. Again, from a fan's perspective, again, I don't know how I'm here, but I'm gonna hold it down, and it's gonna be great. And I'm just gonna try to do my best to tell really good stories and tell everyone's story, uh, so this so everyone feels seen and represented. And I always say I like to tell stories that build bridges, not walls. So that's what I'm gonna try to do and make it genre, sci-fi, fun, action adventure with some heart, and let's go.
And you said the first issue drops on January 24th.
January
Okay.
24th. Right now, you can go get Geiger Ground Zero, which is the first release on Ghost Machine. It came out a few weeks ago, and then the second issue of Geiger comes out next Wednesday, maybe like this month. And then the first issue of the this is what all the universes are going to look like. The Ghost Machine #1, it'll have stories from every universe to set up what the stories we're going to tell in 2024 and beyond. And again, the artwork is it's their reason these guys are the best of the best. Uh, and it's fun, and they're fun, and to be so the announcement dropped not in Deadline, not in Variety. It dropped in the business section of the New York
Yeah.
Times,
Yeah.
and that hit me very hard considering, again, I'm a little black kid from South Central LA, who grew up reading and watching and doing all this stuff, and now who would have thought that I would be on the front page of the New York Times business section launching a comic book company with some of the greatest creators in the last 30 years. Look, I'm like your son and Grant when it comes to that. I'm just still like, I don't know how this is happening, but I will take it and I will run with it.
Yeah. I can't wait for it. And are they monthly issues
Run with
that
it.
are released?
Starting in April, the universe starts to drop. I don't know. I got to check to see if Geiger is going to be continuing like January, February, March. I think that's a monthly
Okay.
book, but the rest of the universe starts to launch in April.
Got it.
So the one shot is just to get people primed for what's coming.
I see. Okay.
I'm pretty sure Geiger will be coming out January, February, March, and then it's going to be joined in April by these other books. But they're all so different. Like
And you could pick these up at a local comic book shop. Is that right?
local comic book
Okay.
shop.
Good.
And if it's not your local comic book shop, ask them to get them, please.
Okay. Got it.
Ghost Machine distributed through Image Comics, which another thing is like Image was still is. I mean, they basically created the model. They left Marvel to start Image so they can do their own
Yeah.
thing. And these creators who started Ghost Machine left Marvel and DC uh, to come to basically own a piece of what they create and to be able to like share in the process and the fun and again, it's just a model that hasn't been done before.
Mr. Magee, where can people find you?
Well, they can find me on Instagram at LA McGee 33. There's no C in my last name, so it's Magee. So it's LAMAGEE 33 that's at Instagram. Everywhere else, I'm just plain old Lamont Magee. You can find me on Twitter. Never gonna call it X. Not gonna do it. You can find me on Twitter at Lamont Magee, and that's pretty much. And I am on Blue Sky, Blue Sky at Lamont Magee as well. So that's me.
Congratulations on Ghost Machine. I can't wait to see the issues. Thank you so much, Lamont Magee. We've been wanting to get you on our podcast for a while now. It's finally here, and I'm so glad. It's just we have a lot in common. And we grew up in the same era of the Super Friends and Superman, George Reeves, and Batman, Adam West. So this was a joy
Yeah.
to just have this conversation with you.
Well, like I said when you interviewed me before, I'm like, anytime. Just we finally got this thing on the books, and I'm glad I could get this in before the end of the year. And I'm going to work on that grant situation for you.
There you go. You made one little boy happy. I'm telling you. You don't know. Thank you once again. Thank you so much.
Again, it's my pleasure.
Yeah. Lamont Magee, Emmy-nominated screenwriter, producer, and co-producer, and co-owner of Ghost Machine. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this episode of Father Son Galaxy. Until next time, take care, and we will see you again.